Okay, so this is one of our April 26th Braps. I showed an April 26th one already. Mm-hmm. So for these, I would look at the wave file, and there were spots where there would be like a 3-minute pause where I could tell we'd stop to talk. Or So I broke these up into chunks just based on the waveform, or if I saw a chunk of silence
okay, I gotcha.
or not.
Where the idea may have changed.
For the most part, these aren't like songs that were just broke them into 5-minute chunks for YouTube because it's more digestible, and I tried to pick chunks that seemed coherent, but I actually haven't listened to any of these all the way through, so this is a first for me. In fact, I wasn't even really paying attention while we were recording, so this is probably my first time ever hearing this, and I'm the one who edited them.
Yeah, I'm getting glimmers of things that I know that I did.
Yeah.
So again, I think it's the second track that we looked at here with the droning bass. I remember doing that very clearly.
That's cool. I
recognize that. And there's one that has something vocal in it as well, somewhere. Either you may not have used it, but I know that there was a microphone in front of me at some point.
There was. I think it ended up being used more. The microphone was picking up you plucking the bass, and it gave it a very muffled, distant sound. So I think it ended up being used for that rather than vocals.
Which demonstrates that in these recordings, it's not necessarily the thing that you intend to be used that gets used.
Exactly. All right, so this is, if I've divided it up into different sections, I've just called them movements. But that's editing after the fact. That's not our intention during the time. At the time, it was just do something interesting, be free, have fun, eat snacky s'mores. Oh, this sounds very. This is a very me one.
Yup. All right, let's see here.
In fact, that same filter was in one of the Manfred Says Go's.
I don't know if it's actually the thing that's happening, but that sound is almost like we made the mistake of giving Kevin a microphone and he started rubbing it on stuff.
I think this was like a antipode filter or something. It was a really bizarre one that it was like 90% useless, but there was like one setting on it that if you rocked it back and forth really fast while different frequencies were going in, it would do weird magic and give you unexpected sounds. I'm glad this is a short one.
That's something else that took a little while for us to figure out, that those live action pedals, if you will, you could twiddle the knobs just like you would on a physical pedal and have it do things up and down, up and down, up and down.
So the first half of it was useless, but that little chunk there is actually kind of interesting. Not so much this.
I guess that's what's great about uninhibited. The good bits will raise their heads and then get smacked back down by noise.
So I'd say the first half of that was a waste of time, and the second half of that had a 5-second chunk that wasn't a waste of time. But overall, I don't have a desire to listen to
I don't know. I don't expect it. I didn't look at that as any worse than that very first one.
I would describe that as a thing that we did.
And there were a lot of things that we did, trying to find some semblance of mastery with the tools.
Yeah.
I don't know that we ever got there, but
I would say the later ones got a little more interesting. All right, this same night, movement 2.
Okay.
Oh, look, one person liked this. Oh, what's wrong with you?
I'm going to say it's you, and you accidentally clicked like.
Oh, no, it was intentional.
There's that filter again.
I don't even remember what that filter was, but I'm glad I forgot it because I definitely don't want it in my arsenal anymore. It's awful. I think I liked it because it sounded like wind and storms and stuff. I think for this one I was trying to go for like a raindrop sort of idea. So yeah, like the subtle movements really amplify and it just gets...
Interesting moire pattern too.
Yeah. I'm also using a very heavy sharpen or vivid filter, and that's what's making the black so dark in the center and giving it that like white halo around it. It kind of enhances the vignette effect. The lens wasn't actually that bad.
And again, I would agree with you that this is definitely you playing around.
Yeah.
Because my decision making would have resulted in this being driven down, like pitch bend way down and droning, and then have little bits come out of it.
That, yeah.
At that style, and you were more wall of noise at that time.
Yeah, my approach back then was more about creating a massive wall of noise and then going in post and carving most of it away and just leaving little hits here and there. But that part was so boring I never got around to it, so I just ended with walls of noise. And also, you would tend to think more like a composition somewhere that would go somewhere, where I would try to more capture like a mood or a visual or a setting, just like an image pop in my head, and I would just try to create sounds that would support that image rather than have it go somewhere musically.
That had to be a musical generator in there, so...
No, we didn't use any of that because this was all done live, other than the... some of it could have been MIDI things that I distorted the hell out of and looped.
I'm sure that we ran musical generator files at that time too, just for background information.
Sometimes I would use a musical generator, load it into Fruity Loops, and have it like a VST, so it'd actually be playing notes in a pattern in time, and then I would be distorting it in real time. So sometimes we did that.
Ooh, I remember those noises. That's a hard thing to listen to at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning.
Did you? Yes!
The Windows error noise.
Actually, one thing I just remembered, I actually had 2 computers because I had my horrible laptop and the desktop PC running.
Yeah, that's right.
So I could feed one into the other and then feed it to you and back, I think. Yeah.
In fact, I would guess that a lot of the error sounds were from the laptop.
The laptop was
Ancient at that time.
166 megahertz Pentium 2 or something.
Yeah, and I had an IBM made Pentium 4.
Yeah.
Like 1.2 gigahertz or something
Yeah,
like that.
and my laptop couldn't keep up with things, so I would use the laptop mostly just for triggering samples, because it couldn't actually handle Fruity Loops playing live, so I'd record things on the big computer.
Have you wandered out of the shot, Kyle?
Yes, I have.
So most of that's going to be audio. Hi, Phineas. You're a good boy.
This is another track that oh god, it's it's almost 6 minutes long. The good news is we're 4.5 minutes into it, so there's not much more to go.
Well, at least it has meaningful changes. That very first one was 7 minutes of the same sounds played in different ways.
You know what this reminds me of? You know when you're stuck in an unpleasant situation?
Or an awkward silence.
Now it's sounding like a horror movie or something, like a swarm of bees, or I don't know.
It
One of the things
makes me think of something that would be appropriate for the movie Event Horizon.
that would work. And watching that movie would be a better use of our time than watching movies.
Yeah, it would be a good movie.
It's got Morpheus.
Good old Lawrence Fishburne.
It's got Morpheus, it's got Dr. Grant, and it's got, what is it, Captain Lorca.
Oh, yeah! Oh, yeah!
Yeah! Love how the guy who has a dedicated Star Trek channel, the name he couldn't think of was the Star Trek one. Well, I mean, I guess I'm more a fan of Star Trek that is canon.
Yeah, very fair.
Not Star Trek that is written by talentless hacks.
Yep, there's some shiny, excellent episodes in there. They're few, but they're in there. And I find the Doctor's character and his husband's character very compelling.
They're good. I liked
I welled up when the Doctor's husband died.
Yeah, I liked Tilly in season 1, but then in season 2, it was like, oh, people liked her. Let's ruin
Turn it up to 11.
Yeah, let's make her unlikable. Yeah. But it pays the bills.
Saying funny things like it's the power of math and all of that is funny when Richard Dawkins does it. Because he has credibility.
Also,
and it's out of character for him to swear and say things like that about science. I'm dodging around the famous Richard Dawkins quote because
he was actually
famously
quoting the editor of New Scientist magazine. That wasn't his quote.
But he has audibly said it, and it got some enough traction that Neil deGrasse Tyson did his own version of it.
Nice.
But I'm dancing around the language, being that students often find these videos, and I'm trying not to swear.
Oh, damn, we're 20 seconds in. We have to watch this from the start. Otherwise, we'll have 20 more minutes of our lives to use happily.
Seconds. Seconds.
Same thing. On a cosmic time scale, it doesn't matter. Nothing does. This just sounds like more of the same.
This is also digitally generated. It wasn't generated live.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, that's you.
You can hear my favorite strings pad in the background, though.
Yep.
So this is one of the ones where we sat down and you said, it doesn't matter what you do, I'm going to bury it in noise.
Well, it was also, we were constantly evolving our setup, and at this point, we hadn't really come up with a way to deal with levels, and when you're doing these kind of effects, you might get one signal that's super hot, another that's super quiet, and the final mix is nowhere near what we wanted it to be. So, I think it was later on we would start feeding everything into my computer in audio mulch and then sending it out from there, but this is before we figured out that trick. So you were sending a signal, I was sending a signal, and just mine was way too hot.
I mean, maybe, but there were times where we came to an agreement where one of us would have greater power, and the times that you had greater power, you would kind of smile and go, I'm going to bury you whatever you do under noise.
Yeah.
Something to that effect, anyway.
That sounds like me. My laptop is running out of power.
Oh no.
Oh, this... Okay, now I can see why I made this a separate movement, because something different's happening.
Yeah, there's a palette change in the sound.
Yeah.
Because there's a live feed from me that can be identified, although it's digital instead of an actual analog instrument. But it sounds like you were using different filters and different pads, I guess.
It actually concluded nicely. I think what happened was I realized I was overpowering you and started to back it off.
Maybe.
That might have been all it was. Yeah.
There's more musical generator working its way in.
Yep. Yeah,
Just
it's amazing
pitch
how
bent way the
predictable
hell
those
up.
patterns became.